The Roaring Twenties by Logan Chapman. The 20s proved to be a time that produced major change throughout the United States. Some feared this newly introduced culture was too urban. However, a handful of people were thriving off the social and political differences. During the late months of 1920, the 19th Amendment was ratified. This signified the birth of a new woman. This amendment granted women the right to vote and led them to change the current American social expectations of women. After fighting for so long for social equality, women wanted to let loose and have fun. This led to the flapper. Flappers were generally northern urban, single, young, middle-class women. These women were known for engaging in active city nightlife. It even became more common to see women in speakeasies, something that was previously unladylike and unheard of. Smoking was also a habit previously only pursued by men. However, the flapper was known to keep a pack of cigarettes and a cigarette holder on hand, something else that was often known as unladylike. Some flappers were even more open to engaging in sexual activities than they were previously. Women were not only changing the things they did, but also the way they looked. Women with gorgeous, long locks cut their hair to shoulder length or even shorter. They began to purchase and wear much more makeup than previously, and they also appeared more free in their clothing, with dress hemlines rising above the knee. But don't let all the fun fool you. Flappers were very hard-working women by day who chose to go out and play at night. The flapper was a declaration of female independence. It varied greatly from the prior silenced Victorian woman and allowed women to more freely express themselves. The Roaring Twenties definitely embraced a consumer economy. The first and perhaps most substantial product was the automobile. During the 1920s, Henry Ford perfected the manufacturing of the automobile through the use of an assembly line. By 1920, there were over 8 million registrations. This number climbed to an amazing 23 million by the end of the decade. Automobiles were not the only product spoiling the American families, though. Many great inventions were introduced that lightened the workload and impacted housework forever. These inventions were the vacuum cleaner, electric refrigerator, washing machines, and irons. They saved women hours of housework, and that time could now be dedicated to other activities such as the careers they were pursuing. Off-the-rack clothing also became more popular as it was much more convenient than the traditional sewing and cutting from patterns. The introduction of the radio was also during the era. The radio was mostly a news outlet during the 20s, and before long, most every household had one. In fact, between 1923 and 1930, 60% of American families purchased a radio. Families often used their radio as a way of bonding. They would gather around the radio and listen to what was going on together. It is often questioned how people could afford these luxuries. The answer is very simple. Buy now, pay later. Buying on credit was a convenience introduced during the Roaring Twenties. For the first time in history, things could be paid off by installments and put on a line of credit. This is also how most American families were able to purchase an automobile. While many freedoms were demonstrated during the 1920s, one remained at a standstill: prohibition. The 18th Amendment banned the manufacture and sale of intoxicating liquors. However, this did not stop people from drinking. The illegal manufacturing and sale of liquor, bootlegging, quickly emerged. The most notorious bootlegger was a Chicago gangster known as Al Capone. He was believed to have earned over $60 million annually from his bootlegging operations. Illegal bars and places to purchase booze soon developed. They were known as speakeasies. These bars were often hidden sections of establishments or disguised underground. They generally had a doorman and required a password to enter in order to take precautions against being busted. Support for Prohibition began to die down around the end of the Roaring Twenties. And in turn, the 21st Amendment was passed in 1933, which repealed the 18th Amendment and once again made the manufacture and sale of liquor legal. Although the Roaring Twenties was not a time of flourishing for all American households, it was a happy, enjoyable era for most. Unfortunately, it came to an end at the end of the decade when most of the world endured a decade-long darkness known as the Great Depression.